Boy oh boy, was this one a doozy. So, I don't think I'm even done yet, technically. But these are all the command blocks I used for the next system we're going to talk about. And that's being, I've finally implemented a way to make use of the attribute system. You can see it's on equipment nowadays, but Minecraft doesn't really make use of it through any blocks, even though sure it wouldn't be that too hard to implement, especially with something like the blocks implemented in the villager update. Just a GUI where you put an item in and then you can tweak around with the attributes. It's similar to Tinker's Construct, if you ever played with that mod, because that readily edits its own attributes, not necessarily the base ones implemented in Minecraft. We'll come up here and I'll run through how it works before we dive into the headache of command blocks down there. So essentially, using 3 different blocks, we're testing if there's 2 items on the block, and if so, we're granting an attribute to 1 item. So if we take out the iron, diamond, and netherite, as well as these little useful materials. So this is a system we implemented before where you just drop the named blocks onto the ground. They'll generate armor with a bit of added effect. We pop them on, gain strength, resistance, haste. But we can take this further now. So essentially for iron, you want a wax cut copper block, diamond, polished basalt, and netherite, you want the new, did I say polished? Yes, reinforced deep slate. And essentially all you gotta do is find certain items, which you'll know which items are useful because they'll play the anvil use sound as long as they're on their designated blocks. So you know this item corresponds with iron, so go ahead and drop. Always do it from the air. If we go ahead and drop the iron helmet onto it, we play, and we now have knockback resistance, 3 armor, and 1 luck. So you'll notice that's a bit different to the base amount, which is just 2 armor. The interesting thing I had to work around here is all these attribute tags on base equipment don't actually exist. So whenever you add an attribute to them in the manner I have, it overrides the base amount because it essentially doesn't actually exist. So it checks the attributes, and since they're not listed, for instance, the easiest way to show this is with an item frame. We go ahead and grab an item frame, chuck this one in. It's going to be a big mess. So you can see there's lots of different things. These generic dot is the attributes and the amounts. We go ahead and put in the normal one. You notice there is none at all. So yeah, replace all them so I had to figure out new base amounts to give. So for instance, I've gone 1 extra armor and 1 luck. And then the resistance was because we dropped iron on. If we go ahead and drop, for instance, the brick on, this one now gets knockback. So they're not really useful for armor, but you can see 2 different materials, 2 different results. And you can stack them. You drop this one and then the iron. Even though it played the sound, it's not deleted yet. This now has both the knockback and the resistance. So we can go ahead and do the same thing with other items. So in the case of diamond, we're using netherite scraps and bricks, and then netherite's the goat horn and the ingot. I'm only showing off these stats. The rest you'll have to figure out if I ever finish this. But yeah, you can drop both at once, or I didn't get timing right. Now, diamond chest piece also has the knockback resistance and the knockback, and you'll notice they're a bit better. It being with diamond, and then the same will go for the netherite. Ooh, we got this time. Because it ticks around. To drop the right items. Ooh, alright. Oh, so this goes back to the block. I'm using the wrong block. So, it needs to be the reinforced deep slate. I might have just... No, so it didn't glitch through. I think I've done a pretty good job of making it not exploitable. But yeah, so 50% and now 20% resistance. I think you could get to 100% with the right stuff. But yeah, the other one to show off is a weapon. We go ahead and grab a sword, we'll grab two out so we can compare. Cool. So, you'll notice on this sword it now has -1 attack speed. The issue with that is the way Minecraft does attack speed, it's 4 minus an amount. So for instance, this is showing 1.6. The actual attribute value attached to this sword is -2.4. So it's slower than this sword. It just shows 1.6 because it has that base value of 4 and then uses like a demerit system. So that's why -1, although it's red, is actually of a benefit. And see, the attack also goes up 1. One thing, I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep or not, is you can get those base improvements just by getting the weapon, waiting a bit, and throwing it on the designated stone. You don't need to actually smith something with it, forge something with it. You won't know, so maybe I'll have to sound play. Not too sure. I don't want to continue using the ample sound because, as you hear, it plays 3 times at the moment, and we'll get into why in a bit. But I could use something else, maybe the experience gain, something magical. Or I might implement it so you only get those bonuses when you first smith it or forge it with a special item. Other than that, I did learn something interesting. Might as well include in this. I've done a bit of decorating, starting to plan stuff out a bit. I also want to implement a few more traps, more player utility ones, that's why they're on glowstone. So, if you come over here, I've had to put more command blocks here, and the same goes for down there, because what I've found is command blocks operate right to left, or along the positive axis. So, see how I've got the red and green markers, so that's positive X, negative X. So, yeah. So, for instance, although we're filling in all 4 columns, it's filling in this column, this column, this column, this column. Meaning that these kill commands on this side trigger before the summon command. So back when I only had the major block, it was deleting the item before it got a chance to replace it with the designated armor. For instance, this diamond chestplate, the diamond block would have just been deleted. We wouldn't have got the chestplate. So I've had to split that up, so now it runs the outsides and then the insides, 1 tick after. And that's the same system I've painfully put in here. So each one of these, always repeating and chain command blocks. I'm never going to use them for normal commands, just for our timers. So yeah, so it's 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 tick, 4 tick. In a sense, I think it's actually, this is set to 11 and this is set to 12. Because these need to run before this, because this is the summoning, or in this case, data merging command, and then this is the command that deletes the designated item. Anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll uncover one of them. So yeah, 3 segments, iron, diamond, and netherite, and then it's 7 by, I want to say 13, but it's 26 because there's 2 commands per item, 13 different pieces of equipment, because I've also included, I included bows, crossbows, shields, and tridents, as well as all the normal items. And I've tweaked it so the attack speed and damage kind of make them more usable. So for instance, axe is a lot stronger than a sword, hoe is by far the quickest, and then these are sort of in between. But anyway, we'll get into the commands. So I need to uncover 2 slots, so 1, 2, 2. I'm just going to clear my chat by restarting, and then we'll put them in chat so we can go through them like normal. Right, so this one goes first and this one. So all we're doing is looking for 1 item on top of the wax cut copper, in this case for iron. So we're using the @E, searching from item, ID, iron chestplate, for instance. And then if it's on top of a block, so that's why -1, well, sorry. The correct terminology would be saying if there's a block under it, because of the -1, in this case, the wax cut copper, it's going to continue the commands. And then the next command is just searching for the other item. So that's how we've made it detect 2 items. The issue with the smithing, for instance, where it just upgrades the item regardless of a secondary item is because I've not set them to anything specific. So in that case, it's just the item minus this NBT data, in which case the iron chestplate counts, even though it's sort of duplicated. Anyway, so if there's an iron chestplate on top of wax cut copper, and then if there's an ender pearl also on top of the wax cut copper, it's going to run the data modify. So in this case, we're modifying the iron chestplate and giving it the attributes, so appending the values, in this case generic movement speed, if you give it an ender pearl. So that's one we didn't show off. And then, like usual, we need a command to clean up. So again, the same detection, iron chestplate and ender pearl on top of the wax cut copper. It's going to delete the ender pearl only. So that way you only get one use out of it. That's not the block I want. Right, if we head back down, the other main ones are this. So these are the normal attribute. So it's similar. We don't have the delete command because we don't have to worry about that. Again, I only did item on this second identifier. So iron chestplate on wax cut copper, then any item on wax cut copper. It's gonna replace the modifiers, well, of the armor and luck in this case. I decided to go with armor and luck instead of, for instance, I think normal netherite has toughness and resistance, because they're modifiers I've put on items before I realized they were going to replace. It's also why I've used percentage-based resistance, whereas this is point-based. And I think toughness might not be. Toughness might be fine, might be replacing it with positive numbers, being because I thought they'd both be on here. So I think the toughness was originally a multiplier, or percentage, but then we've sort of swapped it around and figured stuff out. So again, it's just essentially that first command, and then giving an attribute, in this case luck, in the armor, and then the other main one is the sound effect. That one's the simplest. So all we're doing is detecting if any of my given items, so in this case Dragon Breath does something, and Polished Basalt, so it's for diamonds, it's going to play that sound. And I'll have to tweak this because it was a bit loud, probably 33 on each of them. And the reason it plays back to back is because I have all these command blocks segmented. So for instance, up till here is 1, 2, and then 3 segments. That way there's not too many command blocks in a single tick. So all of these operate within 2 ticks of each other, 11 and 12. And then I think this is 22 and 23, or 21 and 22, and then 31 and 32. That's pretty much it. The only addition I might make is on all of these, and say that with a grain of salt because it is going to be quite the endeavor to sort of edit wherever it has the item. So for instance, Ender Pearl, I could add the display, display name text or something like that. It's 3, it's long. Anyway, add something like smithing. That way it differentiates the items and doesn't give the base upgrade without actually forging with the specific item. I don't know, I kind of like the fact that you make your iron set, you then need to go get your copper, make and your wax, make a block, and you can just get a free upgrade. So take an iron pick, for instance, for attack damage 1.2 speed, throw it on there, wait a few seconds, grab it back, did not wait enough, and it dropped off. We'll go with the hoe this time. Ooh, that's the only annoying thing. You're gonna build them in ground. Much easier. Should done by now. Plus, you might not even figure it out. Yeah, so 4 attack damage and speed is now 4, technically, by Minecraft standards. Or 0, in this case. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of not worth the work of adding the smith. So I think it's 4 times per command block, usually. And then there's, I want to say 500 and something down there. Ooh. Not going to be fun. Go down, cool. But yeah, other than that, a few more main systems to implement, and then probably just the monsters is the other big one. And I find it funny that this system, which is giving at least one ability to every mob is nowhere near as huge, nor are the command chains as big as any of the other ones I've sort of got caught up doing. Because this was the initial one that I wanted to do first, but it keeps getting dragged on. Was also filling these in. So up the top is I want to implement 12, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 12 boss mobs. So they'll just be generic mobs, but with their own special abilities. A bit more diverse. So they'll have that plus the normal set, whichever the mob has. Other than that, we've got our daily events. I think there's 8 different ones to cycle through that I always trigger, so that's why 8's fine. What other systems? I want to do a trophy and sort of curse system. Curses being a block will spawn out in the open world, and if you're nearby it, well, when I say nearby, it'll be like 100 blocks, you'll get a negative status effect, so you have to find it and destroy it. And then probably just maybe an armor detection system. So if you have, say for instance, netherite on, it will detect that and give buffs to the mobs within your area. I think that might be a good way to sort of scale Minecraft and make it sort of compete with the difficulty, because these bonuses are quite a lot. And netherite was already very tanky, so I think you can get 10 armor and 4 toughness through my upgrade system. So, plus an extra health, you'll be really tanky. And I still want there to be some difficulty. And then the hardest one of all is I want to implement a on and off switch for some of these systems, mainly the tedious ones. Because obviously, how to put it, if you're going to use this to play Minecraft, then you know the base systems that I'm implementing, for instance, the mob special abilities and the armor and attribute system, they're not a choice. They're systems you'll have to use. But for instance, maybe the daily events, or seasons was one other I wanted to implement. A way to toggle on and off so that they don't actively affect the world. I think the scaling is probably the big one, the curses. But anyway, other than that, trucking along, starting to work on the design a bit more, flesh stuff out. I'm pretty good. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.